Welcome back, you guys. This is day 2 of pre-training week, so I'm excited to have you back. I hope that the framework we went over yesterday helped you understand what we're going to be covering, how this is going to work as we move forward through this 30-day challenge. And I want you to remember that this pre-training week, this is belief week, where our goal is just to help you realize that you really can do this, to give you the belief of how this can happen for you. So what I want to do first of all is say, hey, if you guys have kids, I hope that they're watching this. I hope that you're having them get involved, because you guys, I don't care if they're 8, 10, 12, 14, 17, 21, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, imagine where they can be if they start now. You know, by the time they get to be my age or your age, think about that, what they can accomplish and how they can already have more of these skills. So I think that's exciting. So I'm pumped, and I'm excited to quickly get started. What today's training is going to be, it's a very simple one. And again, the whole goal is to give you belief. So I'm going to keep this really, really simple. Today, I'm not going to do what a lot of people do. I'm not going to go over all the successes and how all these wonderful things can happen, because I know that, we talked a little bit about that yesterday. But a lot of times what people do is they talk about everybody's successes and how wonderful it is. So I decided I'm going to do something different. And I am going to go over my failures. I'm going to talk to you guys about my failures. And so it's really vulnerable. I may get a little bit emotional. I'll try to behave myself because I'm a little nervous to do this. But I thought, you know what? You guys need to know that failure after failure after failure leads to bigger success and bigger success and bigger success. And a lot of times, honestly, the things that we think are failures are not really what the failures are. The failure is when you stop trying or you give up because you feel stupid or because you feel like you did it wrong. Because what happens is a lot of people think, if you were to imagine a road sign that was like, it was pointing the direction to success and to failure. Most people think that success would be pointing one way and failure would be pointing the other direction. But the reality is both of the signs for failure and success would be pointed in the same direction. And the reason for that is because it is the failures, the trial, the error that makes you better and better at what you do. And so I want you to hear some of the stories that I went through. Some of them, you'll probably go, oh, I can't believe you did that. So what's funny is that well, first I'll tell you, I hope you get 2 things from this. The first thing that I hope you get is that I hope it builds a connection between us, that you'll start to trust me. You'll start to feel like, look, she's been there, she's done that. Number 1, she knows what she's doing. And number 2, I really want to protect you guys. I want to help you and, well, stop you from making some of the same mistakes I made. You're going to have to make your own mistakes. Otherwise, you'll never be successful. But I hope this helps you realize, wow, that is what it takes to hit success. I don't know what your failures are going to be. I know what mine were, and I know I'm not done making them, because the mistakes are what bring us into the direction that we need to go. It helps us learn the skills we need to learn, and you can't just start from scratch and be perfect at it. If you weren't growing and learning, you would never have success. Okay, so don't tease me too much if I get emotional in the video. And then number 2 is, hopefully this will help build belief for you. It'll help you realize, dude, if she has these kinds of mistakes and she has gotten to that level of success, you know what, I can too. And as you have situations where you feel dumb or you feel like you're not good enough, or you worry about whether this is something that you'll ever be good enough at, that you'll ever see success, hopefully you go back and watch this video again and remind yourself, dude, if she can do it, I can do it too. So some of you guys, you're getting started, you're in a job that you don't like, or even that maybe you hate. Some of you want more time with your family. Some of you want to make more money. Some of you want to be able to influence and really help people. You feel like you're content and happy with the way things are, but you'd love to create more influence in the world. So as you're trying to figure it out, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be trying to figure out, dude, is this worth it? And hopefully, if that's where you're at, this video will help you see that it is worth it. Not only does it change the lives of so many people, it changes your own, helps you grow, helps you be better. So you'll see the impact that you're able to make and how much fun you can actually have on this journey. So I want you to go to the next level. I want to let you have a chance to kind of increase your belief and show you guys the behind the scenes a little bit of the mistakes that I've made that forced me to learn, and they propelled me into the success that I later saw because I learned through those mistakes. Now, if I had given up, guess what? None of that would have happened. So it always, always leads to success if you don't quit. So hope you enjoy the failures that I've had, that I'm going to share with you. I want you to have a lot of fun with it. And I'm kind of serious because now I can laugh at it. And maybe some of these I can't laugh at. Maybe some of these I'll cry over. But the reality is, they're all things that I am now grateful for. I learned from those things. Most of them I would not take back. Most of them I would have handled differently. But guess what? Now I do. And so I have to tell you, get your kids watching these. It's going to help them and get them involved in sharing the oils and sampling and doing all of this stuff. I had someone on my team, her name is Tiffany, and her daughter, she sent me a picture of something her daughter had created. Her daughter, I think, was 7 at the time. So Tiffany was building her business and having classes and doing all these things. And she got her daughter involved. And guess what? Her daughter saw how fun it was, and she saw her mom helping all these people. And the next thing I know, her mom, Tiffany, sent me a picture of like 4 or 5 pieces of paper that her daughter had put in her notebook, her folder, her doTERRA notebook. And one of them talked about how she was going to have a class and what time it was going to be at. And it was written in her 7-year-old handwriting. And she had a picture that had some of the oils, and she had listed some of the prices, and some of the numbers were written backwards, and some of the words weren't spelled correctly. And it was seriously one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. You guys, you're teaching them how to start caring about other people and helping them. So get your kids involved. And I don't swear in any of my videos. It's totally clean. It's family appropriate. So get them in. So I have to tell you that when I first started talking to Roger about this particular training, and I said, Roger, help me think of the failures that I've had. Because I have a lot of failures. I have no trouble thinking of them, but I didn't want to have all exactly the same kind of failures. I wanted to give you some that were in different categories. And so he said, he sat there thinking for a while. This is true love right here. He said, I can't really think of any off the top of my head. And I thought, that's a beautiful thing, because as I started getting ready for this video, I started thinking of all these mistakes, and I was thinking, oh my goodness. So for him to say that was really beautiful for me. But I also know that, honestly, I think part of the reason was because at the beginning, I made way bigger, worse mistakes. And now time has gone on, so I still make a lot of mistakes. But my mistakes now aren't as big as they used to be. And they're easier to get through. And they're still, for a higher success level or higher leadership level, maybe that success is a big deal, or that failure is a big deal. But guess what? For the overall spectrum of things, it's not as huge or daunting, or doesn't cause as huge of problems, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'll can you tell I'm kind of nervous to share these with you? Okay, so one that I was thinking about was how I wanted to start doing retreats. And I thought that it would be amazing to do retreats. And I'm a pretty independent person. I'm pretty strong-headed. I know what I want. I want it to be super high standard. And I want it to be a certain way. And so I was excited to include my leaders, my qualifying leaders, and my leaders that I was working personally with. But the truth was, now that I understand it better, I realized I didn't really trust. I wasn't willing to trust other people and let them really be part of it with me. So what I did was I dictated the whole thing. And we had a great time, and my leaders, luckily, they love me, and we had a wonderful time. And we did these retreats, and they would bring their teams, and we would have them in different locations, and we'd have anywhere between 80 to 100 people. And some of you that watching may have been at some of our first retreats. We had such a blast. We had so much fun getting to know you guys, connecting with you guys. We had fun working together as a team, but there was a lot more, there were moments of tension. There were times when my leaders, I could have let them fly, and they didn't. And I remember one time at one of the retreats, I was being overbearing about one of the presenters. And one of my leaders, he and I were discussing it, and I was concerned about what this presenter was going to teach. And so I talked to my leader. I was kind of being more dictatorial than I should have been. And I made sure that they knew, don't let this happen. And then it happened. And I was really frustrated. I was really upset because of the atmosphere that I'm trying to create. And I'm so passionate about the culture of doTERRA, and I felt like it hurt the culture of doTERRA. And my leader and I, who are seriously close, he's like a brother to me. You know what? He and I got in an argument, and that has never happened because he is not the argumentative type. So, and he was just trying to defend his leader, and it's because of the way that I handled the situation. Had I been a better leader, had I been more open and willing to let my leaders be part of the decision-making process, I still could have said, you know, in my mind, I still could have said, there are certain things that I really think are important, and I could have established those at the beginning. But when we met, I could have said, okay, this, you know, these are some things that we're going to do, and I would love to have you guys help me decide what needs to happen here. So I still could have established the few things that I felt were important, but allowing my leaders to be a bigger part of the way that things ran and the way we were going to do it. And so that was something that was hard, and my leader and I had to go through a few conversations to kind of resolve that, which honestly has brought us closer. But it's luckily he was willing to be humble about it when it was something I should have done differently. So that was really a hard thing, and there were several situations. You know, overall it ended up great, but there were several situations that could have been better, and moments when I could have helped my leaders grow better if I had done it the way that I should have done it. So another thing that we did, oh my goodness, I really, really wanted to grow bigger faster. So we had already grown big. I think we were either presidential or blue. I think we were presidential. And I thought, you know what, we've done this once. We've done it the organic way. Now let's do it faster. There's no reason we can't do it faster. And so I decided that I wanted to try to do seminars. So we got in connection with some of the top people who are in charge of running seminars around the country. And in fact, the lead guy that was helping me, he was one of the guys who helped run the big, huge seminars that Zig Ziglar spoke at, and Jim Rohn and some of those guys. And so he was good. He knew what he was doing. And we had some resources to put into that now. So we started doing these seminars, and we did them in Colorado. And so I didn't know what I was doing. They knew what they were doing, and they were helping guide me through the process, but they were also not used to doing it at such a small scale. So we were sending out hard mail, we were sending out emails, we were doing lots of different things to have seminars in Colorado. And some of our leaders down there, and some of the leaders who are not on my team down in Colorado, you guys were so supportive. You would come, and we were starting to have a seminar down there I don't remember if it was every week, I think it was every month. We would go down, and we had people come to these seminars. And the first couple of times, you know, the first time we come, and I was so excited, we've spent all this money on this, and I think we had 3 people besides my team or the Colorado doTERRA people who came and invited their own people. We had 3, and it was such a downer. It was such a bummer. But then, of course, you have to act like, oh, this is great and it's wonderful. I thought, you know, it's hard when you're starting and you invite and you're hoping 10 people come to the class and then only 3 come. But when you've spent all this crazy money and only 3 people come from all of your marketing and everything that you did. And so then we did it again. And the first 2 or 3 times, we got hardly anyone. And then we started offering incentives. We thought, oh my goodness, okay, so let's offer incentives to get people there. Well, guess what? Our incentives were really good. And it got people there, but it got people there who had no money, who had no interest in buying. They just wanted to get the free stuff. And so that was a really powerful learning experience for me. But guess what? Because we did that, we learned from it, and we started realizing, oh my goodness, if we're going to do it on a mass scale, why don't we turn to the internet? And so we turned to the internet, of course, because I was flying everybody down, the whole team that was helping us. I was flying them to Colorado. I was making sure they had hotels. I mean, it was kind of a big deal. So as we switched over to working on the internet, I wanted to make sure, how can we do this so that we don't ruin the culture of doTERRA? And guess what? Because of what I learned through that Colorado live seminar experience, it allowed us to go faster in the online space. And so now we're getting a lot of enrollments every month online. And in fact, we're getting ready to go bigger with it, but we had to wait till training was in place. And that fast track training that I've created, that you guys have had access to now, that was created I created it for me, for my qualifying leaders, plus for all these people that we're bringing in online. And guess what? We would not have had the success we're having online if I had not done that seminar experience. We spent so much money, and people could say, oh, well, that's wasted money. It sure felt like a waste at the time. But guess what? Every effort you make, every time you don't give up, every failure you have, all of a sudden it starts to turn around and teaches you the direction you should go that helps you find success. I remember one time this one I felt sick about. This was with Dr. Hill. This was near the beginning, and so it was easier to have Dr. Hill come out to your classes, but still, it was a big deal. You don't just have Dr. Hill come out to your class. So I was working with a leader out in Alaska, and things seemed to be going great. We were working and trying to get classes, and we got a class set up in Alaska, and I was so excited. And I thought, I'm just gonna ask. I asked Dr. Hill, would you come? Because we were working so hard, and it actually worked out. Dr. Hill could come all the way to Alaska. This was not me paying for it. This was near the beginning. There's no way I could have paid for it. So he paid his own way to come to Alaska to do a class with my leader and with me. And we arrived, and it wasn't just in Anchorage. We had to go to Anchorage and then outside of that. So it was crazy outside, outside not in the boonies, but it was far out in Alaska. And so Dr. Hill comes, and I can't remember if there was one person who arrived or three. It was one or two or three people. And we show up, and I was sick. I feel like it was one person. We were sitting there, and I was totally sick. So I stood up and introduced Dr. Hill as if everything's wonderful. And then the reality is, you can imagine how I was feeling. It was like my gut was wrenching. So here I'm thinking this whole time, I have asked Dr. Hill to do this major thing, and we had a handful of people come. It was sickening. And guess what? Dr. Hill was so gracious about the whole thing, but as time went on, that team grew and grew. It never became one of my biggest teams, but guess what? We helped a lot of people on that team. And do you think that I learned better ways to make sure that long distance we could get more people in the class if we were going to do something like bring Dr. Hill out? You bet I did. And guess what? That never happened again. That never happened where we only had one or two people when Dr. Hill was coming. But I will tell you, so I learned from that experience, but then I had to have another experience with Dr. Hill to learn a different lesson. And so I invited him to a class. This was in Oregon. This is a little bit later in the process. And we had a huge group in Oregon. And they were so excited to have a class. And they had this women's group. And it was this whole group of women who were into natural things and helping people. And they were some sort of a club. I can't remember the name of the club even. But I was so excited. We had so many confirmed seats, and it looked like it was going to be a big turnout. So Dr. Hill and I travel out to Oregon. We go to this group, and it's at a beautiful home. It's in the backyard. It's amazing. And so as we get started, and it was a great turnout. A lot of people came, and we were both so excited, feeling like, wow, okay, this is going to be big. And Dr. Hill and I were both so excited. And then the woman who was having the class, the hostess, I didn't realize, but she was nervous about telling people to come to a class for essential oils. So what she had told them was they were having kind of a garden party, and then we would have a little bit of information about essential oils. So she made it sound like it was just this small part of the whole thing. So, and again, you think I learned something from this? You bet I did. So they had the garden party first, where everyone was drinking alcohol and different liquor, whatever. It was all this fancy garden party. So by the time we started the class, people were kind of soused. They were kind of drunk. And Dr. Hill started teaching, and they were laughing hysterically over the top of him, talking out of turn, kind of acting a little bit happily drunk. And so I'm sitting there with Dr. Hill thinking, are you kidding? Luckily, we had a few experiences in between, but that was horrifying. So do you think I prep my hostesses better? Do you think that I work better with them to help them not be afraid of what they can say to people when people are coming to the class? You bet I do. I'll tell you what, that failure helped me have a lot more successes with my classes. So what about, there's one time I was working with a team in Missouri, and I went out to work with a team. They were fairly new. They were super excited to build. And I had known these people for a long time. They were really good friends of mine, and they're good. They're really smart. They're really good at business. They're amazing. So I knew they would be awesome. So I go out, we do the class with some people they had invited. It went really well. By now I'd had a lot more experience. Things went awesome. And guess what? I've learned that you don't overwhelm people. You don't fire hose. And I did the class great. But I knew these people were such high achievers and so amazing that when it was time after the class and people left, the ones who were excited to do the business stayed. So we worked with them a little bit, and then when they all left, I was left talking with the husband and wife who were my new builders. And I was so excited about them, and I started sharing with them what we were going to do next. Now, did I tell them the next step or the next step or two? No. I knew better, but I ended up sharing like assignment after assignment after assignment, all this whole list of like the next 3 months what we were going to do. And by the time I was done, guess what? They were overwhelmed. They were totally overwhelmed and felt like, wow, we can't add this to what we're going to be doing. They still kind of kept working with me, but I totally blew it. I blew it. And even at a moment when I knew better, I knew better. Luckily, they're still in doTERRA. They've got a good sized team under them, and they love helping people with the oils, and they still use the oils. So that's a great thing. But you know what? I could have changed the tide that day had I done it differently. Another one I wanted to share with you is, so I remember at the beginning, I wasn't prepared what to say. I'm so good at talking to people, and I already have no problem, talking back and forth with people. But the reality was, I was nervous, the fact that it was network marketing. And I hadn't gotten over that yet. And so when I would talk to people, I would talk all comfortably. But if a specific thing came up, I could fake it through the issue. But the reality was, I was uncomfortable. And you think that doesn't show through? Yeah, it totally does. So I didn't really have a specific elevator pitch. I didn't have a specific thing to say when those specific issues came up. And what happened was, and because I was so confident in my ability to talk with people, it took me a long time to learn that one. I could have progressed a lot faster and more efficiently had I been humble enough to be teachable in that area. So what I want you to realize is that even if you're really good at something, realize that what I'm going to be training you in this 30 days comes from so many top leaders who have been millionaires before they even came to doTERRA, people who are millionaires now that they are in doTERRA. You guys, people who have made probably, well, maybe not as many mistakes as me, but we've all made a lot of mistakes. We know how to help you. And the last one, well, two that I want to share with you, because these are kind of big ones. One was a follow-up issue. I had received a phone call from someone, but I had gotten so busy with my team. I was successful already. It's not that I thought I was too important, but I just didn't have time to follow up with everything. Didn't run my business as organized as I could have because I hadn't learned better how to do that yet. And someone called me, and her name is Tammy Stevens. And she left me a message. And guess what? She tried to email, and I don't know if any of you know this, but now she is one of the top leaders in doTERRA, and she's right directly underneath Justin Harrison. So I'm directly under Justin Harrison, and so is Tammy. So Tammy and I now work side by side. We love each other. When we met, we clicked. It was like heaven. And I love that girl, and she feels the same way about me. We get so excited to see each other. But I didn't know her before. She had tried to call me, and in fact, she had tried to call she had picked out some of the top leaders in doTERRA. She tried to call them all. And because she had found doTERRA, she was a go-getter. She looked it all up and decided, I'm doing this is what I'm doing. She already started to go, was trying to find out, what to do next and who she could work with. And guess what? Justin Harrison is the only person who called her back. So had I called Tammy back, she could have been on my front line. And of course now it's totally fine. We love each other. I'm glad that Justin gets to have her on his team. Mostly, I'm glad that he has her on his front line, but it was a huge mistake of mine. That was a failure that could have led to something massive. So that's just another thing that I needed to learn. Do you think I've gotten better at that? Yeah. And guess what? It's not just, oh, I got busier and started responding better to my texts and my messages. Guess what? I hired an assistant. When I hired an assistant, a lot of times we don't hire people soon enough because we think we don't need them. Maybe, and I'll tell you what, usually what happens in doTERRA is people hire help at about Blue Diamond. When real, like diamond to Blue Diamond, when really, once they do, they realize, I wish I had done this sooner. You don't have to hire someone full time. You can hire a $12 an hour person just to help you with some of your things that take a lot of your time so that you can get going better. And of course, that's for you who've been around for a little while. For the newbies, just keep that in mind as you grow your team and it starts getting bigger. Keep that in mind for when you do need some help so that you don't start falling behind. And the last one I want to share with you is probably the most tender for me, because this is someone who was a really, really close friend of mine, and we started doing doTERRA together, and this is, I got her involved, and we started building, and I did a lot of it. She got involved and started having some classes, and it was super fun. It's so fun to do this with your best friends, and it was a beautiful thing. But as I grew doTERRA, and it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, what happened was I want to be careful how I say this. There wasn't the kind of support on that team that would allow them to grow bigger faster. And I had continued to put things under that team and grow that team. This was before I had learned that you don't build for someone else. You just help them build as they go. So it got to a point where that leader was making thousands of dollars a month, which is great. I was happy for that. But then they bought up and in an unethical way, a way that they're not supposed to. But they didn't know the first time. So we had to talk about it, and that was great. I thought that would be the end of it. But then after that, and so what happened was, because of the volume on her team was so massive that her check was huge, but she had a leader above her that if she buys up to silver, then, and this is beyond the scope of what we're talking about for how you make money down the line. Don't worry about that for those of you who don't understand why this happened, because we'll talk about that in other trainings where we're talking about the comp plan. But some of you will understand. Either way, all you need to know is that when she bought up unethically, because when you buy up to silver, let's say you're trying to hit silver and you only have 100 points left, you're that close, you can buy enough oils to bring it up to that point, and you can help somebody down on your team do that. But they don't let you do very much. You can't do more than 150 points. And so what happened with this leader is there were like a couple $1,000s every month that needed to be bought up. And so that was happening. And because she bought up, she got the volume down way below her that should have been going up to the leader above her. So her check was thousands more. It was already thousands. It made it thousands even more than that. And so that was exciting for her, but it was taking money away from the person above her, which is not fair, and it's not right, and it's not ethical. So we had conversation after conversation after conversation. I was trying to help her understand how this works and why this is not okay. And it turned into this major problem where she felt like, why do you not want me to make money? Why are you so upset if I'm making money? That wasn't it at all. And I kept trying to help her understand that, but obviously not in the best way, and not in a way that did help her understand that. And it was at a time in my business also where I was feeling so many demands on me. It was getting so massive, and I had not learned yet how to be the kind of leader that could handle that in a healthy way. And so I was struggling with that, struggling with what I felt like was this attitude, when really, if I really know what she's thinking, what's in her heart, I know she wasn't trying to do anything bad, but it was unethical. It was not right, whether or not she understood it. And I got tired of it. I thought, I'm not going to deal with this. So I went to someone on her team who I had enrolled, and I worked out a plan with them to have her stop purchasing so that this leader could not hit silver. Now, I didn't go tell this leader that I was going to do that. So I did it behind her back. because I felt like I couldn't handle it. And so what happened was the leader that I was having problems with kept trying to reach out to the leader I had encouraged to stop purchasing, and it turned into this huge, it just blew up. It totally blew up. It has damaged my friendship with one of my best friends, and it was because I didn't handle it right. I should have handled it better. And I know a lot of you guys come to me on my placements group where you talk about how, what about this placement situation, or what about, what do I do with this person who said they were going to be doing things and now they're not, and should I, can I tell them that they have to get out of this spot, or, there are all these relationship situations. You guys, why do you think I'm so passionate? It's not because that's the only situation I've seen. It's because I've seen thousands, and I have caused some of them. And this has been a painful thing. And I still love this person very much, but she suggested we take a break from our friendship, and I thought that was a wise thing to do. And so you know what? I still would have done the same thing, but I would not have done it behind her back. I would have absolutely been open about exactly what I was doing and still not tolerated it, but I would have handled it differently. So that was a big failure for me that still we haven't seen the end of, and slowly things are resolving a little bit, but I caused some major damage. And so as I teach you how to do these things, some of these things are not because you've caused a problem and I'm trying to help you fix it. It's because if you do it the way that I teach you, you are going to have your learning curve will be so much shorter, and there's so many of these things that you won't deal with, or at least you won't deal with as severely or as often, because you learn from our mistakes. So I just want you to understand that I haven't done this perfectly. I grew up with doTERRA. I figured it out as I went. I learned as much as I could from the people who knew, but I still had to make my own mistakes. You guys, you are still going to make your own mistakes. And I want you to know that that's actually a beautiful thing. Don't get discouraged because you have failures. I want you to be thinking, oh my goodness, another failure. There are going to be so many failures towards success. Okay, I'm that much closer to success, because guess what? If I didn't have failures, I would never have success. And I want you to remember that as we go through this 30-day challenge. And I hope that you'll understand that you literally are truly one sample away. You're one sample away from reaching the dreams that you are trying to reach. So enjoy your assignments for today. Make sure you go watch the video with Curtis, and I will see you in tomorrow's training.